Hey, it's Rebecca. And as a coach, I love helping my clients deal with transitions in their life. And that's what I wanted to talk with you about today. The things that I have learned that have been very instrumental in helping me go forward after a transition and to get through it as it's happening. Because again, we are always going to have transitions in our life, right? Because you can go from being hired to fired, a new home to a lost home, a marriage to a divorce, begin a career to retiring from a career. But what do they all have in common? Change. And in your life, you are never going to not have a transition. So I wanted to share with you a huge transition I had in my life. I owned a grain elevator and feed store for 25 years, and I had to close it 9 years ago now. But the hard part about that was I loved what I did. It's just the economy in our small town had changed to the point where it wasn't financially viable to keep the business open anymore. One of the financial moving forces of my business was the grain elevator. We'd buy grain from the farmers, and then we would sell it to the grain companies. And once our farmers dwindled to less than a handful, we just couldn't keep that going. So I had to close that down. But that was a huge hit to the money coming into the business to support the small feed store. It was feed, seed, fertilizer, lawn and garden, pet supplies, a greenhouse. Like I said, I loved every bit of that. But it just got to where I was having to pour more and more money into it. So you're thinking, well, why didn't you just close it down then? I should have closed it down 3 years before I actually did. I had some reasons. I had the fear of what people would think. I had the fear of disappointing people. And then I had the fear of what am I going to do next? But you know, the best part, God is so good to always bring a peace and an understanding. And I finally felt it in my gut that in 1 month, I closed the store down and figured out how we could do it, started doing it, walked through that process, and I kept an online store afterwards. So I figured it out. But it's understanding that transitions are just a part of life, but it's how you react to it makes the difference. I'm going to share 3 things, y'all, that were instrumental for me going through this one. It's give yourself grace when dealing with all the changes that occur or that need to occur. Don't second guess yourself like I should have done this or I could have done that because I started doing that. And that does not create anything good in your life. And it doesn't help you to think clearly on that happened. It's happened already. We've got to keep our focus forward. So you just have to keep your eyes looking forward and what that next step is going to look like. That's the key there. And 2, don't play the blame game. You know, it's so easy if you could say, oh, you know, it was their fault or it was this fault or somebody else's fault. You know, it is human nature that we want to blame someone else for your situation, but understanding the circumstances that led to the transition, whatever your transition might be, is going to help you understand, have more understanding for yourself and for others. And that helped me when I could realize it was the whole situation of the economy and the people and the lack of farmers in our community. So that definitely helped me a lot. But misunderstanding and miscommunication can lead to several problems too. And that's not going to help you. Whatever your transition is, maybe it's in a relationship, maybe it's in a job. And that's when you've got to learn to use your voice to let others know what it is that you want, and then also to ask what they're wanting. Because if you just assume that they're going to know what you want, or you're assuming that this is what they want, that's where you can blow situations out of proportion and feelings can get hurt. So that's just a very powerful way of learning how to use your voice. And then 3, honor what was created before the transition. I mean, it was really hard at the store because for 3 years, I really was almost in a depressed state because I couldn't figure out how to turn it around, how to get out of it, and then dealing with all these limiting beliefs that came in. But when I think about it, I realized I loved my customers. customers. I loved being able to provide solutions for whatever problems they had, whether it was weeds or insects or feed their animals, whatever it was, or what flowers to plant, because I loved my greenhouse. But that was a key also, is appreciating what was there and when it was good, because yeah, it did get bad, but that's not where I wanted my focus to be. But also other part of that was kind of a grief that I was the feed store lady and I'd been that for so many years, but I was leaving that behind and understanding that it is a type of grief, whether you're wanting it or say you got a new job in a new city and you were moving there, there's still a little bit of grief of leaving behind what you know, what you're comfortable with. But when you can honor what you had and take with you, you know, the good things, you're not going to be filled then with regret or doubt or anger in the next opportunity that comes along. So I just want you to think about, as you move into a transition, be kind to yourself. Take baby steps toward that new change. Learn to use your voice so that others will know what you want and what you need, which is going to build your confidence and it's going to build your positivity towards your future life and your future relationships. So those are the things that made an impact for me when I went through a very difficult transition. And it has helped me in each of the transitions that I have dealt with in the last 9 years. And I know it's going to help me further. So I hope that each one of those you can take and just use them for yourself, because again, they all have one thing in common: change. And that's a given.